When you had your conversion, you were very happy. And I remember not feeling that at first. Like I was joyful in the sense that I was so happy to finally have this truth. But I think I overthought it a bit and I thought, I need to be more X.
Yeah.
But I think I was like, even though I was a single 18-year-old, it did sort of turn everything around for me. Like I was like, I have to go home and tell my friends like I can't do drugs with them anymore.
Well, I remember they were thinking, the question was like, should we let Emma stay and be on team? You're aware of this?
Yeah.
But the answer was no, because I mean, she's a fresh convert.
Yeah.
She needs to go home.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm glad I did go home. It was so difficult, but
yeah, what was that like, going back into a small country town?
Man.
And how did mum and dad react? Because I wasn't there, obviously. I was in Ireland.
I remember calling mum and being like, I like Jesus now. And she's like, so you're going to come to mass with me now? It was just hard. Yeah, I didn't have I'd made great friendships in Canada and in Ireland, but they were just so far away. And so, yeah, just kind of going to mass and praying, and it was just a bit isolating, I suppose. But I was just holding on to going back to Canada the next year and serving on net, which was great. But yeah, it's just very tough. And praise God, I was able to not lose that faith. I was able to kind of hold on to it. But
yeah, people who don't live in small towns may not understand what this is like, or maybe they do. So I feel like in most cities, at least in America, like there's a Catholic group of sorts. You might not be like crazy about the people you have to hang out with and pray with and do life with.
Yeah.
You may wish they were better than they are or more interesting than they are or whatever. But to live in a small country town where the only people who go to mass are like, God bless them, right? They're holding the church together in Australia, but these like blue-haired old women, yeah, bless them, like they really are amazing people, but it's like they're so much older than you, and it's so difficult. Especially not just that, but you're going back to a place where everyone you know and love is living such a different life.
Yes, and they remember you differently, and you have to kind of explain like, I'm not going to.
What was that like?
Well, I remember calling a close friend and kind of saying, I can't do drugs with you anymore. That was kind of the biggest thing. And he was very, we had always had really big, deep conversations. And I think I spoke to his wife now after, and I remember her saying, I don't know what you said to him, but it must have been very potent because he's been crying. So I think he was kind of, I mean, I don't want to put words around his experience. It sounded like he was wanting that. He was wanting to have an experience like that, or or maybe he was grieving that our friendship would be different. I don't know, but yeah.
That's really cool. I remember for me the biggest obstacle to get over was coming home was probably like just bad movies.
Oh, okay.
Like there was that American Pie series that's absolutely awful, and I remember the pressure of all my friends being into these new things. Like as you get older, the pressure lessens. Yeah. Like, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just changes because now they're advertising like how I can regrow my hair, like things like that. But when I was a teenager, it was like all the latest things for teenagers, and my friends would get drunk and things like that. So I don't think getting drunk was a big deal anymore for me. Like I was pretty okay, like not doing that. Pretty okay. And then maybe it was also just like hooking up, which was just such a part of my teenage experience, like going to a party and with the boys. But like drugs is something next level, like because there may have been, I don't know, you tell me, like an addiction element. So was that difficult for multiple levels to give up, or were you not addicted?
No, it was very recreational. Okay. Yeah, and I hope I'm not making it sound like I do it all the time. It's probably like once a month or something, but when I would get together with this particular group of friends.
Do you know I only smoked pot after my conversion?
Really?
That's what I said earlier when I was like, I was still wretched. Like,
right.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? That's so sad.
Were you invited to prior?
No, maybe that's why. I was, and mum and dad did a pretty good job at like warning us off against that kind of stuff. Yeah. I wish parents in the 90s were as concerned about their kids fornicating as they were about them smoking tobacco. I feel like we all would have had much healthier childhoods if we were smoking cigarettes instead of like... Right. Anyway, but yeah, no, I did smoked pot a few times, but I remember the day I stopped, I had to go to work that night, and all my friends had started smoking weed, and I remember just looking around the room because everyone was half baked, and I just thought, this is so ugly. Right. This is so sad. Like, I'm not glorifying drinking either, but when people drink a little too too much in my experience. Right, people were kind of more energetic, more they would relate to each other. But it was like everyone was just sitting on the couch in their own world. I'm like, I can't keep doing this.
Right.
But anyway, back to you.
Yeah, no. Well, I think, not to sound super depressing, but I didn't really have a lot of friends when I went back because my main group of friends was in Adelaide. And like I said, when I left school, I kind of left those friendships behind. So I wasn't really tempted in that way. It was just more lonely, I think, after my conversion, going back. So
what was it like? You mentioned earlier when Carla would come back.
It was awesome. Yeah, we would just we'd pray together, we'd chuck manies together.
Explain what that is to the people at home.
Chucking a manie is when you drive up and down the main street of your hometown or a town. Yeah.
Do you remember Carla's dad's car? The horn would blare
every time she turned left.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. I don't remember, but she told me about it.
Yeah, it's so wild. Because I was already, this might surprise people, but I was already not terribly cool when I was 16. And so while these other cool kids had their like super revved up cars, seat back,
Honda.
Do you remember Danny Fasciano?
I don't.
All right. Well, anyway, so Chuck, and meanwhile I'm in Carla's like blue, maybe Beetle, and every time we turn left, we go, eh. So you're like, oh, you have to pretend you were waving at people, and then you'd be like, I hate my life. And she's like, me too. We didn't hate our lives. Man. Remember Club Clippers?
It sounds familiar. Was that a place in Pirie?
Yeah, so
excuse me.
Again, can't reiterate it enough. Like even though Port Pirie, where we grew up, is a it's a sizable town. It's about 16,000, isn't there, people there?
Yep.
But it's surrounded by farmland. It's not like these cities here. People say it's a small city, but it's all the cities in America, a lot of them kind of connect. Yes. Ours is like you could draw a line around it, be like, that's it, and then you got to drive like an hour to the next significant town. So it made it feel all the smaller. So like it must have been so weird for them trying to drum up like hype about a club.
Yeah, and what's the difference between like what is a I mean, obviously the difference between a club and a pub, because there's pubs in Pirie that operate like clubs in the evening.
Well, so I think that was less the case when I was 17.
Oh, okay.
I think they were more just like pubs. Yep. But this was, I don't know, they had flashing lights and like techno music and stupid stuff like that. But
that's funny.
I don't know why I brought that up.
Port Pirie. Port Pirie's the place to put a smile back on your face.
It's all at Port Pirie. Yeah, all right. So, okay, and then were you afraid that you wouldn't be accepted to NET when you...
I think a little bit, but at the same time, Ben, the recruiter, was very encouraging, and I was very open with them about everything. And
how did your relationship change with mum and dad now that you were...
I think I just tried to be less of an ass to them, really.
Nice.
Yeah, hopefully I succeeded at that. I don't really remember. I do remember just going to Mass with Mum. I think I started playing music at Mass, which was nice.
Did you know Bishop Hurley well? Did you get to know him?
I think I was too young. I don't think he was the bishop there when I came back.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. He's terrific.
But yeah, I saw him actually a bit when I lived in Brisbane. He's wonderful. Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
Yeah, Bishop Hurley. People don't get this in America either. Like I'd go to his house and knock on his door and we would have cups of tea together and talk about Jesus.
Totally. Such a isolated town, like a small... Well, it's not actually a small diocese. I think it's the
third largest.
Right.
Geographically.
Like ever?
Third largest in the world right now. I think the number one's probably in Russia. Technically, I guess, Florida. Which one is it? Orlando, because... they went to the moon from Orlando, and so apparently that becomes part of the diocese, technically speaking. So it's kind of stupid, but it's a fun fact, that Orlando's the largest diocese in the world.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, all right. So then, did you struggle with your faith during that time? Did you question? Like, was this just some emotional experience?
I never did. No. Praise God. I was always very strongly convicted, and it was kind of like, I can't go back. Like, how can I let this go? Like, because that was my whole thing. I wanted to pray. My prayer was to kind of know, like, show me in a way I can understand and grasp onto it. And hearing that talk really just changed my heart. And I've never looked back and thought, oh, maybe it's not real, maybe being so young, maybe I dramatized the experience or whatever, but it was still just, it was real, and fight me for it.
Now, hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.